This is All India radio station Mokokchung at 100.9 MHz on FM band. And in the program, Police and the Citizens Empowering in Unison. Today, we are glad and honored to have with us the Additional Director General of Police, Administration, Nagaland Police Headquarters, Kohima, Nagaland, Shri, Sandeep, Madhukar, Tamgadge, IPS. So thank you so much for availing your time and be a part of this program. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Bendang, and it's a pleasure for me to be a part of this very unique program for having interaction with citizens at large and trying to give exposure to the policing in general. So it's absolutely a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much again.
You're welcome, sir. Today we shall be decoding the police structure during the discussion with our sir here. So, but before we really come to the topic, I was wondering how Nagaland Police is doing at the moment, in general.
I feel in a very objective and a very neutral manner, I can say Nagaland Police is doing absolutely wonderful. Not that I'm being a part of Nagaland Police, and that's why I'm saying this, but when I have a comparative model of policing at various other states in the country, I can see with respect to the human resource management, with respect to the infrastructure which is available with the department, with respect to the both, and when I say infrastructure, the infrastructure both at the human resource level and with respect to the other physical assets as well. I think Nagaland is one of the best state in the country, definitely in the northeast part of the country. With respect to the crime scenario, the investigation scenario, the law and order also, it has improved tremendously. And over a period of last couple of years, multiple bodies have announced Nagaland to be one of the best performing states in the small states category in the whole country.
Thank you for giving us that insight. Now, sir, again, one more thing is I cannot help but tell you very straightforward that I have heard a little story about your background, the way that you have come to be an IPS. So would you like to share a bit of it with our listeners and viewers at the moment, sir?
Sure, absolutely. I don't mind that. See, I'm basically from a small village in Maharashtra, in a district called as Wardha, which is adjacent to Nagpur. And I was born in my village in Wardha district. My dad was a constable, a Sipahi in Indian Army. And wherever he was posted, I happened to be with him. He was posted for a brief period in Assam, then in Delhi, then in Secunderabad. And so wherever my dad was posted, I happened to be with him. And then when I was in class 6th, my dad put me in Sainik School in Maharashtra State. I did my schooling from Sainik School. And thereafter did my graduation from Nagpur. And while being in the school itself, I decided that I'll try to make civil services as my career option. It would give me an opportunity to work for the public benefits. And so after graduation, I appeared in the civil services and got qualified. So I must say that it wasn't a very easy journey for me. Like, as I say, as you would appreciate, Constable Jawan doesn't have a lot of salaries. And during the times when I was growing up with multiple family responsibilities and being posted at various places, it was quite a challenging task to fulfill the dream. But nevertheless, with the grace of the God and the support of my family, I was able to clear my education and everything else. So besides that, I must also say that I failed in class 7.
Okay.
So, yeah. And I usually say this during my conversation with the people, the public, not as a matter of embarrassment, but in order to let the public at large know that early failures in life should motivate you for greater successes. Generally, people tend to get demotivated by failures, and it's quite obvious that failures will put you, in a very challenging position. So I flunked in class 7, but nevertheless, I also must tell you that I also was able to clear the civil services in my first attempt at the age of 22. So with that failure in class 7, I took a good learning experience, and so that's how it is. I think that should be good enough for the viewers to.
Yes, absolutely. That's an amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing all those kind of details with us at this moment. Now, sir, I could see that you have been posted in Nagaland from 2001 to 11, and then you have again gone out of for the CBI posting from 2011 to 15, and again you have come back to Nagaland. So there has been a transition in your posting between Nagaland as well as the CBI and things like that. How do you find this transition, and what are the lessons that you would like to share through your experience during the transitions, sir?
Yeah, certainly. I was allotted to Nagaland cadre, and as you rightly said, I joined the state in 2001 and was posted in various capacities. Initially as SDPO in Tuli, then additional SP in Zunaboto, then worked in Zunaboto. Thereafter, almost for 3 years, I was SP in FAID, and then I was in PHQ, then Commandant First NAP for almost 3 years. And after working for first 10, 11 years in the state, then I decided that for my professional improvement, for gaining more professional skills, I need to venture out to Government of India, any police agencies in Government of India, so that my professional skills will be enhanced. I should be able to get more skills. And that's how I decided to join Central Bureau of Investigation, the premier federal investigative agency. Now, of course, we have NIA as well, but CBI remains the premier federal investigating agency. Also, this decision was prompted due to the fact that as a policeman, the criminal investigation has always been my passion. That may also have been because of the fact that before joining IPS, I had worked as a DSP in CBI for almost 3 years. And so the criminal investigation at its various interesting facets has always motivated me to pursue the criminal investigation and the criminal justice system at large. While being in CBI, I was fortunate to be given multiple roles and responsibilities. I was head of the branch and SP of Special Crime Branch Bombay, which had a jurisdiction of almost 7 states: Kerala, Karnataka, Goa, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan. And while being head of the branch and SP of the Special Crime Branch CBI, I was fortunate that a good number of Supreme Court referred and monitored cases were given to me as a chief investigating officer, which was an immensely learning experience for me. It allowed me to venture into the various facets of criminal justice system at all levels, right up to the topmost level of the Supreme Court of India. Also, I was the head of the branch of anti-corruption branch in CBI Nagpur. Then for a brief period, I was SP Special Task Force Bombay, which had investigated the Bombay blast cases. CBI was a very immensely learning experience, as I was saying, and especially due to the fact that I myself was a chief investigating officer for multiple Supreme Court referred cases, especially what people know in common parlance as the police encounter cases of Gujarat, the Sohrabuddin encounter case, the Ishtajan encounter case, and so on and so forth. These cases were very big in nature, which had covered investigation into multiple states. And these cases were referred and monitored by the constitutional courts at Supreme Court and the Gujarat High Courts. So I think that gave me immense exposure as a professional police officer. After completing my deputation tenure, I returned to the state of Nagaland in November 2015. And thereafter, whatever roles were given to me by the government, I tried to fulfill my responsibilities. After returning to the state, for a brief period, I was advisor to the then Honorable Chief Minister of Nagaland. And thereafter, as the IG CID, then IG Armed Battalions, which included IG IR also. Then almost for 2 years, I was IG Headquarters, and for last 1 year or so, I'm performing the task of looking after the charge of additional DG administration. So, and in this capacity, it's a Herculean task of being the trying to take care of the various administration and establishment related issues of the Nagaland police.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All around has been a wonderful journey so far.
It has been a wonderful journey indeed, sir. Now, sir, as you know, this series of program, we are already on the 6th or the 7th episode, and almost with the top brass of the department with whomever we have had the interview, there have always been one question which is very constant. And today I would also like to question you this, the same question.
Please,
with the kind of experience that you have had working with different agencies as well as in different parts of the country, how would you compare the Nagaland police with those other states' police forces, sir?
See, when the comparison of two police forces is never an easy task. And when we say comparison, every police structures, every police organization primarily tends to police the state, the society, and the people of that particular state. And as you can appreciate, the society, the cultures, the customs, the practices in, let's say, Maharashtra or Gujarat or Tamil Nadu would be immensely different than a state like Nagaland or Manipur or even Kashmir or any other state. For
agreed, sir, agreed.
And so, policing practices, see, the laws remains the same. So when we say that, okay, somebody would say that the Indian Penal Code or the Criminal Procedure Code or various laws which have been enacted with the parliament are by and large same all over the country. Yes, I agree on that part. The laws are same, but I am saying the policing practices are different, which evolve from the needs of that particular society, the needs of that particular state. And so I feel it's not a very easy task, or it's not very advisable also to compare the different police forces of the country. For example, let me give you this particular example. Very often when I go to Nagpur, my home state, my own friends say, would you not be in a position to come to Maharashtra as a police officer? And I say, after serving 20 years in Nagaland, I will not be a very good police officer in Maharashtra. And they say, why? I say, because my mind has been conditioned with the structure and systems of Nagaland now. And that exactly is the reason for the cadre systems which is prevalent in the IS and IPS. Whenever we are sent here, like I'm a non-Naga, when I was allotted IPS, I was given Nagaland as my cadre, and it is expected that I should make Nagaland as my home. I should learn the customs. I should learn the traditions here. I should learn the expectations of the people, and then I should work here as a professional police officer. So, for example, a police officer who would be immensely successful police officer in Maharashtra, Bombay, Nagpur, or Delhi, if he comes to Nagaland, he may not be able to work even for 6 months. Similarly, if I have worked in Nagaland for 20 years, and if I return to Maharashtra, even Maharashtra being my home state, I may not be, be able to work or do justice to policing in Maharashtra. In Nagaland, over a period of last 6-7 decades, especially after the creation of the state in '63, the policing has evolved due to the spatial conditions which had prevailed in the state. And that is the reason that even today, almost 65 to 70% component of the police force of Nagaland is armed policing. So much so that the sight of our general public also, when you say policing, the first thing that comes to mind is the NAP battalions, the armed battalions.
Exactly, sir, exactly.
So that's what even the public also see, that what is a police? Police is somebody who is carrying a weapon. a policeman not carrying a weapon is something which is unthinkable even in the public psychology. Whereas in other parts of the state, I'm sure you would have been to other parts of the country also, other parts of the country, you would see very few policemen with the arms, very few armed policemen. The maximum interface that the general public in other states would have with the traffic cops who are at the traffic intersections trying to regulate the traffic. And there would be very few armed policemen. So our state had special conditions, our state had special circumstances due to which our police evolved as an armed police setup. And over a period of time now, we as the leadership of the police in Nagaland police, we are trying to change the shape and change the face of Nagaland police from being armed policing to the unarmed policing. Having said all these things, now if we say, how are our guys in performing the anti-militancy operation? If you say, how are my Nagaland police in performing the, let's say, the armed policing part, I'll say one of the best in the country, definitely. But if you say, how is our police performing in, let's say, criminal investigation at the police station level, or the investigation with respect to the emerging crimes like cyber offenses, the economic offenses, and so on and so forth, I think we are still progressing in that phase. Okay. And obviously, we are still progressing because we never had that kind of exposure to the policing. So, armed policing, I'll say definitely, and that's the reason why over a period of last 20 years that I have seen, there is so much of demand for Nagaland police, especially to perform their role in anti-militancy operations or anti-LW operations in Chhattisgarh, in Bengal, and so on and so forth. Because there is a realization even at the union level, at the other state government level, that Nagaland police are good in fighting, jungle warfare or the anti-militancy operations. They are good in do that kind of policing. But if you say, okay, call somebody for investigation of a cyber offense, I'm sure we will take some more years to reach that stage.
So now coming to the topic, how would you describe the policing structure in the national and the state level, sir?
Okay, see, Vedant, policing as such, as per the constitution of our country, is primarily the sole domain of the state governments. I'll not go into the technical nitty-gritties of the law or the concepts which are kept in the constitution or the Indian Penal Code and so on and so forth. But in the layman's language, policing as per the Constitution of India is the responsibility of the state governments. So when I say that, that means what is the basic unit of policing? The basic unit of policing is a police station. And who is the in charge of the police station? The station house officer, or in Nagaland we call it OC, the officer in charge of the police station. So he is the main person in charge for overall law and order in his area of responsibility, jurisdiction, maintenance of peace, the criminal investigation, so on and so forth. And everything revolves around that police station. So primarily at the state level, it's the state government which is responsible for policing. And in case if there are any further requirement for maintenance of law and order, then the state government would want to take the assistance of central police organizations. So when we say central police organization, any central police organizations will not have any jurisdiction in the state government or the state or the districts or the police station level unless the state governments empower that central police organization. For example, we in our state, we have multiple units of Assam Rifles. Assam Rifles is a paramilitary force. It's a central paramilitary force. In fact, Assam Rifle is the oldest central paramilitary force. Besides that, we have a couple of CRPF battalions, we have a couple of BSF battalions, and so on and so forth. But they cannot operate by itself without the express approval of the government of Nagaland. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, initially I'm trying to make you explain that the structure of policing revolves around the police station and the state governments. Okay. That is what the constitutional scheme of things. Now, having said that, there would be a natural question in the mind of our viewers that how does that explains the presence of multiple central police organizations. So when we say central police organization, we have CRPF, we have BSF, we have CISF, we have SSB, we have Assam Rifle, and ITBP, and so on and so forth. Primarily, these central police organizations are being utilized by the government of India for protecting the international borders. By international conventions, any army of any country is not supposed to be on the international border. So all over the world, the international borders are protected by the paramilitary forces. So for example, on Indo-Bangla borders, there won't be a presence of Indian army, there would be a presence of BSF from Indian side and Bangladesh Rangers from the Bangladesh side, not the regular armies. So central government, the Union of India also need to have their own police forces for protecting the international borders, one. Part two, for offenses, for the criminal offenses. For example, if there is a organized gang, organized crime which is happening in multiple states, okay, or if there is an international crime which is happening. So whether a OC of Mokokchung police would be able to investigate in Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Kashmir, or even going beyond India to some other country, he can operate. He does have the power, but he will have its limitations. So in order to make it easier, the government of India created certain federal investigating agencies. The first federal investigating agency being the CBI, which was created in 1964. And of course, now we have NIA, the National Investigating Agency, which has a very sole mandate of investigation of the terrorist-related offenses or the finance-related terrorist offenses. But both these agencies will function in any state only at the concurrence of the state government. I hope I'm able to understand, make it clear. So if tomorrow Nagaland government says that no, we don't want CBI to operate in Nagaland, CBI cannot register a case or investigate here.
Okay.
To make my point clear, a couple of months back, the Maharashtra government withdrew its consent from CBI. So CBI is no more in a position to either register an offense in Maharashtra or investigate offense in Maharashtra. Why I'm giving you this example is to draw home the point that the policing and by its corollary registration of FIR, its investigation, filing of the charge sheet, its trial in the court of law, these are all the state government functions. And if state government doesn't want, no central government agency can come and investigate. As far as criminal investigation, the criminal justice system is concerned. Okay, but at the same time, we do need other central government functions with respect to protecting the international borders, with respect to protecting the government of India assets in the form of airports, vital assets, etc. For that we have CISF, and also, excuse me, for the intelligence agencies, we have two intelligence agencies. One in the form of internal intelligence agency, we call it Intelligence Bureau, which is basically responsible for collecting and analysis of the intelligence within the country. And we have an external intelligence agency, which works outside the country for protecting the interests of the country. We call this RNW, the Research and Analysis Wing. So these agencies are the Government of India agencies. But as per the constitutional scheme of the things, policing, maintenance of the peace, maintenance of the law and order is a responsibility of the state government.
Thank you so much for being very simple in giving us those kind of explanations. Now, sir, let's come to the criminal justice system as well, sir, as you have already mentioned about it. Now, sir, for the layman like me, how would you explain the criminal justice system?
Okay, when we say criminal justice system, I would, from the perspective of the layman's understanding, I'll divide the criminal justice system into three components. Okay, sir. Part A, Part B, and Part C. And when we say criminal justice system, it primarily refers to giving justice to the victims. Okay, the criminal justice system. So it's a system which tries to give the justice to the victims. And when I say there are three components to it, the first component is the policing, the police force, the executive part of it. For example, whenever a crime happens, the crime can be a theft, a burglary, a dacoity, a murder, attempt to murder, a arson, or anything else. A crime happens, the victim goes to the police station, okay, and gives a written complaint. The OC will go through the written complaint and he's empowered to register something called as FIR. You would have heard about that, first information report of an offense happening. That is registered under a particular section of CRPC. We call it section 154 of chapter 12 of CRPC. But let me not go into those technical details. So FIR starts the whole criminal justice system into motion. It is the first step for starting the whole criminal justice system into motion. Once the FIR is registered under 154 and an investigating officer is given the task of investigation. Now, when I say investigation, what exactly is investigation? See, investigation is nothing but trying to find out the logical sequence of how the offense has happened, what are the modus operandi of the offense, who has committed the offense, what is the loss to the victim. Okay. And when we say logical sequence, you have to then collect the evidences also, because as per our system, the criminal justice system in India that we follow has been derived from common law. When I say common law is something which was used by the earlier British colonies, Commonwealth countries. You would have heard about this word, Commonwealth countries. So the erstwhile British colonies, all of them, we follow the same law called as common law. And our criminal system is based on common law. So as per our common law and our criminal justice system is based on the legal system of beyond all reasonable doubt. You would have heard this word also, beyond all reasonable doubt. The legal system is based on let 100 criminals go scot-free, but not a single innocent be punished. Okay, this is the legal maxim that we follow. And for that, we have a system of policing, we have a system of judiciary, and we have a system of correctional system. So when I had said that criminal justice system has three components, we have these three components. The first is the police, the second is the judiciary, the courts, the third is the correctional system, that is the prison. Okay. And to elaborate it more in next couple of minutes, with the registration of FIR, the investigation starts. The IO is supposed to collect all form of evidences in the form of documentary evidence, in the form of material evidence, in the form of oral evidences, everything, follow the procedure which is laid down in the law, come to a conclusion if the offense that is being said in the FIR has actually happened, has actually occurred or not occurred. If it says that, okay, there is a complaint that somebody has come to my house and has stolen my property, I investigate the offense, I collect the evidence, and I come to a conclusion that yes, the complaint is genuine, he is the culprit, he is the accused, and now there are enough evidences for me to send this person to the courts. That is the second step. Okay. When do we send a person to the court for facing the courts? Because police is just the investigating agency wherein our job is to collect the evidence, put it in a more logical, cogent way to the courts to decide if the accused that we are sentencing to the court has actually committed the offense or not committed the offense. Go back to that maxim, legal maxim, that innocent should not, the innocent should not be punished. Okay. So after 154, after section 154, when the FIR is registered, till section 173, the police role has its role of investigation of the evidences, collection of the evidences, and so on and so forth. Once we give our charge sheet to the court, I mean, charge sheet is not the word which is used in the legal parlance, but for the common popular understanding, almost every one of us use the word charge sheet. When we put up this charge sheet to the court of law, okay, court of law will examine the entire evidences which is produced by the police. For example, giving you an example, somebody would say that, okay, this man in the night came to my house, broke open my door, stole my this many properties. While going out, he injured my watchman and went away. Okay, let this be the complaint. So, and I will investigate the offense, I will collect the evidences, and I will file the charge sheet that, okay, not only he has attacked the watchman, but he went to the next house also and he committed burglary in the next house also. And after that, while fleeing away, he went to the another colony and he murdered another person. Okay. The first complaint, FIR, would be of only one offense, but while submitting the charge sheet, I may submit the charge sheet for all the 3 offenses.
Okay.
And then I put up the things to the court of law. Court of law will go through the evidences and will decide, okay, the evidences for breaking the door is sufficient. I take the cognizance, tick mark. Okay. The evidence is sufficient for stabbing the watchman. There are a good number of evidences. I take the cognizance. I take these things. So on and so forth. The court is supposed to individually verify and appreciate the evidences that as a policeman has put to the court. This is called as taking cognizance of the offense by the court. This stage is called as taking cognizance of the offense. Thereafter, the magistrate to which the charge sheet has been filed will do something called as committal of the offense. Now, what does that mean, committal of the offense? Committal of the trial. See, as per the law and as per the courts in order, you may have there is a hierarchy of the courts as well. The junior most court is something called a JFMC, the Judicial Magistrate First Class. Then the second class, first class. Then we have in Nagaland earlier we used to have ADC Judicial. We don't have ADC Judicial anymore, but there's something called as Additional Session Judge. We have Session Judge, then we have High Court, Supreme Court, and so on and so forth. So all these courts have their own jurisdiction. So the junior most court may not be able to conduct the trial of a murder. The junior most court will be able to conduct the trial of a very small offense. Okay, let's say a small assault or something. The trial of a serious offense would be conducted by the additional session judge or the registration judge. So the court at which the charge sheet is produced by the police, after going through the evidences, will send this entire case to a court of committal, which court it is being sent to. So if it is a murder offense, it will send to the additional sentence. This is called as the stage of committal during the trial. Okay. Once the committal has been completed, then the trial starts. And what is the trial? The evidences that the police has produced to the court. The court will go through, will call all the evidences, will call the witnesses in front of the court, and then go through the entire process of the trial. I know it would be a little boring for you and for the other people, but I'm just trying to make it as simple as
not exactly, sir.
So anyway, to cut the story short, the court will appreciate the evidences which has been put forth by the police, and if it finds that there are enough material in the evidences and the charges are proved in the court of law, the court will either convict or acquit the accused person. Okay, if there are evidences which are beyond reasonable doubt, it will convict the offender that yes, there are enough material. You are convicted for this and this sentence, maybe for imprisonment, for the monetary fine, XYZ, whatever. If it has not enough evidence, it will acquit the person. Okay. If the person is convicted and imprisoned, then it goes to the third phase of criminal justice system, that is the prison, that the correctional system. And so if a person is, let's say, sentenced for 1 year or 1 year of rigorous imprisonment, he will go to the central jail, will complete his tenure, and thereafter he will be released. So this entire process of the investigation conducted by the police, the trial conducted by the court, and the sentence executed by the prison is a combined process of criminal justice system.
In fact, many times when justice are not delivered in a very speedy manner, we end up pointing fingers at the police. But with an explanation like that, we now understand that it has to go procedure-wise. It has to go one step after the other, and that's where things happens to get delayed. So I think that is a very elaborated sort of an explanation whereby me, personally, as well as our listeners and viewers at the moment will have a very good insight of what happens when things are being delayed. Thank you so much for that, sir. In fact, as mentions has been made about the CRPC and IPC, sir, would you also kindly explain what are these two things? We have always thought that IPC or the CRPC are almost the same. So, would you kindly enlighten us on that as well, sir?
Yes. I'm sure majority of the public views the same thing. But see, IPC is nothing but the penal code, the Indian penal code, wherein the offense is defined and its punishment is defined. Okay, so if you commit this offense, then this is the punishment, and for this offense, this would be the code which would decide whether the offense has been committed. So penal code is nothing but the definition of the offense and its punishments which are prescribed. Whereas CRPC is a criminal procedure code, whereas the CRPC lays down the procedure in which the investigation would be completed, okay, in which the courts will function and conduct the trial. So while IPC just defines the offences, the CRPC lays down the procedure in what way these offences will be investigated and conducted the trial.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, in a state like Nagaland, of course, we are imbounded by the IPC and the CRPC, but in a state like Nagaland, we have quite a huge set of traditional and the customary laws, sir. So how are all these things blending together? How are they going together, sir?
See, we have a very unique way. This is the point wherein Nagaland differs from most other states in the country. I don't know, it's such a complex subject, but let me try to put it again in a very simpler manner for a layman's perspective.
Kindly, sir, kindly.
So when we say law, I have been speaking about law, the criminal justice system, the CRPC, IPC, investigation, etc., etc. Everything has its genesis in the Constitution. The Constitution is the groundwork, the founding document which gives us these powers. Any law enacted by the Parliament or by the state has to have its genesis in the Constitution of India. So when we speak about Constitution of India, as per Article 13, it defines what is law and where does the law derive its authority from. And if you study Article 13, it says that law also gets derived from customs, its usages, okay, and thereby customary law is as much a source of law as law given by the courts or law enacted by the legislatures or law enacted by the Parliament. Now, having said this, please try to understand what I'm trying to say. General perception is that the laws are created only by the Parliament or legislatures. Not so. Laws are also the pronouncements of the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, if it gives a case law, it is a law. Law is also, its source of law is also from the customs. So your question is about the customary law in Nagaland. And as I was saying, Nagaland by its this thing is a little bit unique from other states, that have the presence of customary law and we have a presence of entire system and structures of customary law as well. Okay, now where does the authority comes from? There are multiple acts which have been enacted by the state of Nagaland after its creation, but primarily the genesis of customary law in the modern context goes back to the rules of administration and justice of police in Naga Hills. These rules were made in 1937, wherein the traditional customary authorities at the village level, at the area level, were given the authority to do the policing jobs, basically to maintain the law and order in the villages, maintain the peace in the villages and the area, and so forth, so forth. In And these rules of 1937, when I say rules of administration of justice and police in the Naga Hills, had its own legal scrutiny over a period of last 70 years. And these rules have been challenged right up to Supreme Court. And Supreme Court has also upheld the validity of these rules. To give you a very specific example, there was a very unfortunate incident in 1965 wherein 7 armed militants were killed by CRPF. And this case was being tried by ADC Kohima.
Okay.
This was challenged by CRPF first in High Court and went up to Supreme Court. This case is called as State of Nagaland versus Ratan Singh. It's a very famous case of 1967, wherein the Supreme Court had upheld the validity of rules of administration of justice and police in Naga Hills. And when the Supreme Court has upheld the validity of this particular rules, that means Supreme Court has also upheld the validity of the customary law in the state of Nagaland. Now, having said this, there is another point to it. Please understand that till 2008, there was in the state of Nagaland, the executive and the judiciary were not separated. What I meant to say is, maybe your generation or your prior generation, or still in the popular parlance, we still say ADC judicial. We don't say sessions court. We still say ADC judicial.
Exactly,
so this
exactly, sir.
ADC judicial till 2008, the executive officers. When I say executive officers, SDO civil, ESC, ADC. We also had something called as PA to DC, political assistant to DC.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so all these civil authorities, all these executive authorities also had the dual role of also acting as judicial officers.
Okay.
It was only in 2008 that through a notification, the executive and judiciary was tried to be separated. Okay. And thus, all the judicial officers in the state of Nagaland, the earlier DC judicial, ADC judicial, so on and so forth, now are under the administrative control of Guwahati High Court. Please understand what I am saying.
Okay.
They are now under the administrative control of Guwahati High Court. They are under the administrative control of the judiciary. This is the second aspect to it, that separation of judiciary versus executive. Now you will ask me, sir, where this customary law comes into this aspect. The rules of, and despite separation of executive and judiciary in 2008, the rules for administration of justice and police in Naga Hills, which was enacted in 1937 and which was subsequently amended many times. In 74 it was amended, and last it was amended in 1984 also. These are still in place, these are still valid, still upheld by the Supreme Court, and we still have the presence of customary courts at the village council level, at the subordinate DC level, and at the DC level. Now the only difference is, now your next logical question would be, then what is the authority of this customary courts?
Yes.
Obviously, you will see this question. When we have enacted modern parliamentary laws also in the form of IPC, CRPC, so on and so forth. We have modern judicial structures in the form of additional session judge, JMFC, etc., etc. Then what is the role of this customary courts? Customary courts at the level of village councils, customary court at the level of the ADCs, customary court at the level of DC, Dobhashi court. You may have heard this concept of Dobhashi court at the DC office. See, these customary courts are the custodians of the customary laws, and primarily they will deal with the civil cases, land disputes, the village disputes. Okay, like a village council, the court of the village council will primarily deal with the land disputes at the village level. The courts of the subordinate DC customary court will deal at the disputes of 2 villages or 3 villages, land disputes. We have multiple land disputes all over the state. You are also aware. Almost all districts have land disputes, river disputes, water disputes, so on and so forth. So the customary courts will primarily deal with the land disputes aspect and the disputes of the other civilian nature. Having said that, customary courts also do have some minimum authority and powers with respect to criminal offences. Okay. Now, what are these authorities? This, like, you are an hour gentleman. Okay.
Yes,
and
sir.
as per the rules for administration of police and justice, and while empowering this customary courts, they have been the rules have been very clear on this aspect. Like in our customary laws, they said that Puthumundan will have the authority for analyzing and implementation of the customary law.
Exactly, sir. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Whereas in let's say in the place where I'm sitting in Kohima, the village council will have the authority. In our area, it's not the village council, but the Puthumundan who would have the authority to do. Now, going to the Konyak area, the village council, no, not the village council, it will be the armed would decide. Similarly, in Semas, wherein the village council chief is the hereditary in nature. So again, from type to type, it differs. Anyway, going back to the point that I was mentioning, that the customary courts do still have some authority with respect to the criminal offences. And what are these criminal offences? Very small offences. Some mischievous person creating some nuisance in the village, some mischief in the village, causing some kind of inconvenience, affray, drunken brawl, etc., etc., etc. So these courts have been given the authority of imposing the monetary fines.
Okay.
But the customary courts have not been given the authority of any imprisonment.
All right.
Let it be very clear. Yeah. Not as per the law. The customary courts have not been given the authority to pronounce any imprisonment. Only the monetary fines. And these rules, when I say rules for administration of police and justice in Nagaland, this gives the authority to the village council chief, the head of the khels, the hereditary chiefs, the dobhashis, the gauburas, also the authority to ensure that the peace and law and order is maintained in the respective areas. If they are not able to maintain the peace and law and order in their respective areas through the mandated authority that has been given, they have been authorized to inform the DC and the subordinate officers of the DC, who will take all possible measures to ensure that the law and order is maintained in the area.
Having spoken about the traditional and customary law in relation to the CRPC or the IPC and the constitutional law, I think a lot has been clarified. So thank you so much. Now, coming to another aspect, we have heard a lot about the Armed Force Special Power Act that is in existence in different parts of the country. And even we are also under this act. So, sir, could you also kindly enlighten us on this, the Armed Force Special Power Act?
Yeah. See, Armed Forces Special Power Act is a special act which was created by the Parliament of India. And why this act was created? First, and what does this act do? Armed Forces Special Power Act empowers the army and certain paramilitary forces like Assam Rifle in Northeast and the Rashtriya Rifles in Jammu and Kashmir, and any other central paramilitary force which has been notified by the Government of India in an area, in a location, in a state which has been declared as disturbed area. Okay. So, for Armed Forces Special Power Act to operate in any area, that area has to be mandatorily declared as a disturbed area by the Government of India. Now, if you see the genesis of both these acts, primarily both these acts, any student of law, any student of policing would understand that these acts were primarily enacted to fight the initial days of armed resistance in Nagaland, way back in 50s and 60s. The Disturbed Area Act was primarily conceived and operationalized to fight the armed resistance, armed militancy in Nagaland. And then thereafter, it went and was used in other parts of the country. Now, at the initial phase of our conversations, I had told you that maintenance of law and order is primary responsibility of the state government. So where does the Central Armed Police Forces comes in? Through these acts, the government of India, if it feels that the state government needs assistance, help in maintenance of the armed resistance, which has the capacity to destabilize the integrity of the country, which has the capacity to affect the territorial integrity of the country. And only in those circumstances, when an area has been declared as Disturbed Areas Act, only this Armed Forces Special Power of Act will come into play. What does this act do? This act gives the policing powers to armed forces in layman's language. What are the policing powers? Policing powers is basically, if there is an offense, register FIR, conduct investigation, the powers to search, powers to arrest, powers to detain. These powers are traditionally given to the police officers. But as per this Act, Armed Forces Special Power Act, these powers are also given to officers of Army and Assam Rifle beyond JCO, a junior commission rank officer.
Okay.
So this was the act which were conceived and implemented in the Disturbed Areas Act. Unfortunately, our state has been being declared disturbed for years together now. And not that this act was not challenged in the highest court of law. Let me tell you, all the major case laws, when I say case laws, that means all the major cases with respect to armed forces, which has gone up to the Supreme Court, has been filed by our citizens from Nagaland. The most prominent case law in against armed forces, or rather not against, with respect to the Armed Forces Special Power Act, is the 1998 judgment wherein the Naga People's Movement for Human Rights, you may have heard about this, HRM, versus Union of India. This case was filed in 1998, wherein the legal validity of this act was scrutinized by the Honorable Supreme Court of India. And after having this case law is a very famous case law, wherein all the army officers will quote this case law, the Assam Rifle officers will quote this case law, that yes, this act has been upheld by the Supreme Court of India, so on and so forth. But if you read the whole case law, if you read the whole order of the Supreme Court, which is quite a lengthy order, the Supreme Court has tried to maintain a balance of, on one side, trying to give the policing powers to the army officers, but at the same time ensuring that Army or Assam Rifle will not go beyond the control of the state government. Okay. From the layman's point of view, I am saying that. And so, what this act says is that for continuation of this act, every 6 months there will be a review, and the government of India will continue the Disturbed Areas Act and continuation of Armed Forces Special Power Act in a state with the consultation of the state government. Okay. So it is mandatory that every 6 months, the Union of India, the Ministry of Home Affairs, will have consultation with the state government, and only then it will take a decision if the state also further needs to be declared as disturbed area and also further needs to be declared as under the Armed Forces Special Power Act. This was one very important thing which came out of this judgment. Also, some important things were that any operation conducted by Assam Rifle or Army will not be conducted without the representative from the police department and without the representative from a women police constable. Okay, this is a very crucial thing which this case law said. Any person who is arrested either by the Army or Assam Rifle has to be mandatorily produced in the nearest police station within 24 hours, so on and so forth. So this basically was the requirement which the government of India felt, the parliament felt that this act has to be there. And that's how, as I said, unfortunately, this act is in place in our state for quite some time. It's for the governments and our society to decide how long we have to continue with this act. And As a surveying police officer, I don't think so I can say anything more than this. To add to that, I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, please.
There are few more case laws by the Supreme Court also, and by the Honorable Guwahati High Court also. One was again by one Mr. Our gentleman, Decoding versus the Union of India, wherein there is a provision that in case of inconvenience caused to the public by the armed forces, there would be monetary compensation by the Assam Rifle and the Government of India. So, over a period of last 2 or 3 decades, this act has been challenged in the Guwahati High Court and Supreme Court and so on and so forth. Just that most of us are not aware of the legal provisions that the honorable courts have tried to safeguard the safety and the liberty of the citizens here. I think this aspect needs to be made aware to our people.
There are some few things that I would like to know from you, since you are involved with it personally. And of course, I'm trying to talk something about your personal life. So now you are also involved with a lot of social activities, and then you have also been awarded for that. So could you also kindly mention a bit about it to our viewers and audience?
It would be a pleasure. As I was mentioning, I come from a humble background, and I have seen some challenging days in my life. And I feel that while working as a public servant, I need to also, besides the official responsibilities which has been given to me, I feel that it's my responsibility towards the public at large. And so taking that social message ahead, over a period of last 7 to 8 years, I, along with my team and like-minded people, we are running multiple study centers in my area, in Maharashtra. We have almost 45, 46 study centers which are free of cost for the children from the underprivileged background, from the rural background, from the poor background, from the slum areas. And we try to guide them, we try to provide them guidance for the competitive exams, for higher studies within India, outside India. And I must say, and we don't charge anything from them. We provide them the area to study, we provide them the books, the guidance, etc. And over a period of last 6 to 7 years, there are more than 600 plus students, math students, who have been able to qualify in multiple competitive exams.
Wow.
Some of them even UPSC, the banks, the insurance, the railways, and so on and so forth.
That's an amazing.
We also, thank you. My trust also, over a period of last 5 years, been granting the scholarship to poor, destitute, orphan girls in the rural areas, who unfortunately have lost their parents, who want to continue the studies but can't continue the studies. So we select these bright girls from rural part of Maharashtra, and not huge amount, but 5,000, 10,000 depending on their requirements. We tend to give them every year 500 students, 150 students. We tend to monitor them, their progress, seeing that they will have at least an opportunity to do something good with their lives. And so primarily, my team is working in education and employment related aspects, trying to see what best can be done on this.
Well, so those kind of gestures, I suppose, the people who are coming and getting the free facilities that you all are trying to provide, I think they will be forever indebted to you. And I think that's a huge blessing start for you as you go and continue to work for the upliftment of the underprivileged people, be it in your state, over here, or wherever it may be. A good gesture, Sean, will always be remembered by the people. So thank you so much on behalf of all the listeners and the viewers at the moment. So thank you so much for being so good. As an outgoing question, if there is any change that you'd like the Nagaland police in general to have, then what would be that? And why would you want that, sir?
See, there are, in fact, we are working on multiple issues. As right at the beginning of the conversation, I said that the nature of Nagaland police is primarily the armed policing. That was necessitated because of the prevailing conditions for last 4 or 5 decades. But now at this moment, I feel it's high time that we need to change the orientation of Nagaland police from armed policing to unarmed policing, the civil policing. By and large, along with the rest of the world, we have also ventured into the 21st century, and we are also facing the challenges that the other states, other countries, other societies are facing. Every day we are seeing increase in the economic offenses, the fraud, the cyber offenses. We unfortunately also seeing the sexual related offenses, so on and so forth. And definitely we need to improve our capacity as a professional police force with respect to criminal investigation, with respect to collection of evidences, forensic sciences, with respect to the rule of law by and large. So that aspect definitely the department needs to change. That is part one. Part two would be a little bit ticklish here, but nevertheless, I would want to say that we definitely, the force definitely need to evolve beyond so-called tribalism.
Okay.
Once in the uniform, you're a cop, you're a policeman. You're not supposed to be X, Y, Z. You're not supposed to, or not from this village, this area, nothing of that sort. The moment we wear uniform, the whole idea of uniform is that it gives uniformity to the force. And when we say uniformity, we thereafter is just a cop working for implementation of rule of law. And collectively, we need to rise above that. I think if we are able to do that, that would solve a lot of other issues which are prevalent in the force.
Well, thank you so much for your elaborated explanation and your sharings about your philosophies, about the understandings, and all the things that you had to say in our conversation today. So thank you so much once again, sir. And listeners and viewers, at this moment in the program Police and the Citizens Empowering in Unison, we have had a discussion with the Additional Director General of Police Administration, Police Headquarters, Kohima, Nagaland, Shri Sandeep Madhukar Tamgadge, IPS, and in it we have tried to decode the DNA of police. So thank you so much for your time, for your valuable time once again, sir, and we hope to have more interactions in the near future. Thank you so much. This is All India Radio Station, Mokokchung.
Thank you once again. Thank you.